Hey folks, welcome back to HeartGold vs. Crystal. We are here entering Union Cave. It's the first mandatory cave area of the game. And let's start the episode off strong with the next team member. It is indeed a Sandshrew. Now, Sandshrew is a Pokemon that's been around since the first generation, but I haven't really ever used it aside from like one of my very first playthroughs of Blue. So I'm kind of curious to try it out. It's a ground type. I don't really know what it's good at. I'll have to figure that out. But it should be pretty neat. It'll be cool. It's cute. Look at that thing. Remember that episode of the anime where it wrecked shit and it was pretty rad. Anyway, it's a lot more cooperative getting into the ball than Klaus was, so let's catch this guy. And Sandshrew might be useful against the copious number of poison types in the game, since ground types are indeed super effective against them. Now, for whatever reason, you might have noticed there on the Pokédex screen, it's actually classified as a mouse Pokemon, even though it has Shrew in the name. Not sure, it's a strange peculiarity. It's not like they're completely literal with all of their Pokédex translations, so whatever. Anyway, that terrified me for a second, because wow, that did a lot more damage than it did in HeartGold. But actually worked out very nicely and perfectly, so Sandshrew, getting in the ball. I've been very lucky with getting the same gender with all Pokemon. Apparently it's really rare to get a female Togepi, but I got to, so it's pretty rad. See, it's a mouse. What's up with that? I don't really know. But anyway, this nickname is probably not my best work, but at least I didn't go for Sandy. I went for Sandra. So, it could have been worse. Anyway, now that we've obtained that team member, let's make our way through Union Cave. Now, Union Cave actually got a significant redesign in HeartGold and Soul Silver. It was originally different, but no more difficult or easy to get through, so I guess it was just for the sake of diversity. I can think of a couple other areas that would have benefited from that, but oh well. Anyway, TM39 Rock Tomb. This is actually going to be a great benefit. I don't have any rock types on my team, but luckily enough for me, Klaus can learn it. Sandra could too, but Klaus is going to be my main physical attacker, I think. And Klaus will be very good at taking care of flying types in that regard. And now I can actually get rid of those flying types that I couldn't really deal with before. You know, Webster's not too great at that, and Bree doesn't have anything particularly good against that. Anyway, in other news, TM39 over in the original is not Rock Tomb, but it is nonetheless useful. We've got TM39 for Swift. It is an attack that literally never misses, except in very rare occasions in Generation 1. And now Bree has a stab move, and a reliable move other than Metronome, so you won't see as many outrageous Metronome incidents from now on, unfortunately. Now, there's actually one other TM I could have taught in Crystal that I will think to do a bit later. You'll see that later in the episode. Anyway, this is our first encounter with hikers, and I'm showing this off for the sake of demonstration with a couple things. First off, to show what hikers are like, they have rock types. Big surprise. And also to show off just how not very good at special attacking Klaus is. So put this in perspective, Bubble admittedly is not a very strong move. It has like 20 base power, but it is supported by Stab, and is 4 times effective against Onix, who does not have great special defense. The fact that it's a 3 KO is a little ridiculous. It's a bit sad, even. So hopefully we'll get a stronger water-type move fairly soon. There's nothing else we can make up for it with sheer base power. On the other hand, that was a lot of experience from that Onyx. Onyx are pretty rad. I think you can find wild ones in this cave if you didn't trade for one in Violet. Anyway, Harden. I probably won't be using this very often. At all. Okay, apparently I didn't even bother to learn, so definitely won't be using it often. Ha! Anyway, moving on. This guy's a bunch of Geodudes. There's nothing to write home about. You will see your fill of Geodudes throughout this every cave in the game, basically. It's one thing I appreciate about Generation 5, no more Geodudes, so you can't really complain about there being too many Geodudes in caves. Anyway, plenty of items to be found around here, and there's much more to this cave than we can currently explore. I may or may not go further into it for the sake of demonstration, considering the main prize is a Pokémon, and my full team will not include that Pokémon. Although next time I play through the game, it probably will. Actually, I should do that. Whatever. Anyway, that guy, the Slowpoke, he took a long time. He likes to use Yawn. I didn't want to show it because it was supremely tedious, and I didn't have a super effective move against him, so... Anyway. I have to use repels a lot here, because base repels really don't last very long. You gotta wait till you get max repels to really have your investment worth it. But oh man, it's worth it. Anyway, Route 33, one of the shortest routes in existence. I mean, geez. I struggle to think of anything shorter, other than possibly one route leading up to Victory Road. Which is a lot more barren, at least. But good lord, this is a tiny, tiny route. Anyway, doesn't stop it from having one trainer, and this is actually a neat trainer for, again, the sake of demonstration of what my team is now capable of. And by my team, I mean Klaus and Bree. Unfortunately, Webster doesn't have a whole lot to do in this section of the game. Not so great against rock types, or against poison types, which we'll run into soon, or against bug types, which we will also run into soon. Anyway, Geodudes go down easier than Onyx, partially thanks to the rain boosting the power of Bubble. This isn't what Klaus is good at, just so you know. Klaus is good at using Vice Grip on things, but you can't really do that against a rock type. And then, over on the other side of the spectrum, you can see he's about to send in Machop. Machop is a fighting-type Pokemon, which makes it weak to Psychic-type moves, and that is what Bree is all about at this point, at least in HeartGold, not so much in Crystal. But if I recall correctly, Klaus was just so much of a badass, he swept Machop no problem. But this is more interesting. Look at that. That small, adorable creature coming from the egg is using its psychic powers to manipulate space-time, and it's pretty great. Anyway, I hope that was decently entertaining for you folks who wanted to see a little more combat from these videos. But of course, as you can tell by the video length, we are nowhere near over. Bree's getting good experience. Almost back up to where Webster is, considering Webster's been pretty much inactive since we got Bree. This guy, I think he might tell you... I'm trying to think of what he alerts you to the presence of, but I cannot think of it. It's not Dunsparce. Dunsparce are in Dark Cave, so I don't know. Anyway, here's a little cutscene that wasn't in Crystal. It's unnecessary, but it paints them as bad people who beat up old people. Anyway, we're gonna deal with Team Rocket in just a sec after this commercial break. Alright, time to deal with Team Rocket in the Slowpoke Well. Now, unfortunately, there's that guy standing up top preventing us from getting in, so we will need to find some plot before we can get in. Luckily, there's not too many places to explore at this point. And our cutscene is to be found here in Kurt's house. I'll explain a little more about Kurt once we've gone and dealt with Team Rocket, but suffice to say, he loves handling balls. Anyway, he goes off to save the Slowpoke, leaving his child unattended. Or grandchild, I think, maybe. But that clears up the path here, so let's get down into the well. This little intro area wasn't in the original. It makes it actually look like a well that has a whole bunch of other stuff in it, coincidentally. Doesn't really work as a well anymore, but oh well! Anyway, welcome to the first Team Rocket confrontation area of the game. For those of you very unknowledgeable about Pokemon, Team Rocket is an evil organization of criminals, Pokemon gangsters, so to speak, who like to capture Pokemon and use them for nefarious deeds and even sell them for profit. They have no grand scheme about manipulating the space-time continuum or a social upheaval or creating more landmass or flooding the world. They just want money. And it's refreshing, actually. Anyway, here's why Rock Tomb is really awesome. Yeah, it's the best. Anyway, like how they appeared in Generation 1, which is where they originally appeared, Team Rocket focuses mainly on poison types, so that means you'll see a lot of Zubat, a lot of Ekans, and even though they're not poison types, lots of Rattata. Anyway, let's just have more of the amazing Klaus-Bree tag team powers here. Ekans can be annoying if you're trying to use physical moves on it. It has Intimidate, which cuts physical power, but Bree is using a special move, so take that. Anyway, supposedly Team Rocket broke up after the whole incident in Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Green, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, in which their leader Giovanni was defeated by a little kid and went into hiding, but apparently some people just weren't okay with that, and they're trying to make a comeback. And they're starting here in this well. You could say they've gone underground. Anyway, showing a few more of the fights here. Just because people wanted to see more fights, and there's actually things of interest sometimes. Here, for instance, is how Sandra operates. Sandra actually hasn't had any combat experience before this matchup here. I'm hoping that I have time to catch Sandra up with the rest of the crew. Yeah, I'm using Scratch a lot. It's thrilling. Unfortunately, Sandra doesn't have any ground type moves at this point, so we can't abuse Stab in any way. But Scratch isn't a bad move for the early part of the game. It's just unremarkable in every way. And this Rattata isn't really doing much offensively, so... Whoop. Anyway, now for contrast, let's see how Sandra operates over here in Crystal. Now, Sandra has one advantage here, in that Mud Slap, which we got from Faulkner in Crystal only, is compatible, and a ground-type move. So Sandra may be abusing this quite a bit. This is the other TM that I mentioned when I was teaching Swift to Bree. This will either be a good way to annoy the hell out of people, or my luck will just never work out and I'll have to replace it with something better. I'll replace it eventually for sure, probably once I get some sort of earthquake mechanism, or earlier. But I hope that I can get at least a little bit of accuracy hacks just to make things entertaining. overall, things might go down a little slower, but I think Sandra should be safer on average. But, I don't know, we'll see how it plays out. Note that I finished both those Rattatas with criticals. That was pretty sweet. Anyway, let's move on to the boss, Proton. And he's the head of this little operation, and maybe the toughest person here? He's an executive. Again, he doesn't throw anything really crazy at you. If you've been dealing with what they've thrown at you so far relatively well, you'll be fine. I mean, we've got a Zubat, so use another, rock move or a psychic move. I don't think you can get any electric types at this point unless you use the Pokewalker. But good lord, it's a Zubat. Get over yourself. Goes down very easily. And now he also has, after this lengthy experience sequence, he also has a Coughing. Now you probably ran into a Coughing in Union Cave. One of the fire breathers had a pair, but this is the most powerful Coughing that you have seen thus far. It is actually a fairly unremarkable level. It's level 12. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Coughing is a good defensive player, so to speak. Like, he takes hits fairly well. Mostly physical ones, though, and Bree has a Psychic-type move that runs off the special stats, so, yeah, screw you, Coughing. Although he did manage to poison Bree, which is unfortunate. I don't want to be running around with poison too much, since, running around with poison will lessen a Pokemon's happiness, and Bree is the last person I want to be unhappy. Why do all these things happen to Bree? All the explosions, and the self-destructs, and the poisons, and the... Anyway, this Coughing shouldn't pose much of a threat. If nothing else, you can take it down with a War of Attrition. It pretty much always works. Now then, over on the Crystal front, things are a little bit different. For one thing, it's not an executive, he doesn't have a name, it's just a grunt. They added a bit more plot in the original, or in the remake. And secondly, he only has a Coughing, and it's more powerful than the Coughing in HeartGold. Rather than have a level 14 Coughing, they decided to add in another weaker Pokemon. Why, I have no idea. I would much rather get the at least somewhat exhilarating thrill of defeating a level 14 Pokemon, but look at this, Klaus is already level 15. He's just destroying everything, honestly. I'm honestly amazed by how good he's been thus far. But I suppose he's had to pick up slack from a Togepi that only knows Metronome and a Spinarak that can't really do much stuff at this point. But yeah, he goes down fairly easily as well. And he needs to get a haircut. Yeah, you see? Underground. Get it? I wasn't the first one to make the pun. Anyway, this whole thing was about rescuing the Slowpoke. And apparently one of these Slowpoke has a letter that says, hey, take care of Grandpa. Anyway, this is Kurt. He will make Pokeballs for you using apricorns or whatever the hell they are. And they are Pokeballs with amazing special abilities that I will never use. Except this fastball will probably come in handy. They have a bunch of diverse abilities, some are more useful than others. They're a little less worth the time investment, I guess. It takes time for him to make the balls. And it's just, I never bother, I never come back to Azalea anyway. But anyway, that takes care of that, and I will see you guys next time for the Azalea City Gym.